Hello again, folks. Martin Lehner here from Orange Technology, and in this video, I want to talk to you guys about learning to code. Well, not so much learning to code, but being able to code. So again, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Martin. I own an IT services provider in the United States. You guys like to use the term managed services provider, Orange Technology, right here. So I live and I operate up here in Whitehorse in the Yukon. So that's in northern Canada. We are on the Canadian side of Alaska, basically. If you don't really know where the Yukon is, I am 2 hours away from the nearest Alaskan city. So very close to Alaska in the north here, and I run an IT services provider. So I have a number of staff. There are 9 staff in total. And yeah, we provide external IT services to clients. And this can range from everything to server administration, network management, workstation troubleshooting, voice over IP systems, all this kind of stuff, right? And basically anything technology related. So what I want to talk about in this video is coding, right? So the big thing right now in the technology world is learning to code, right? All the big jobs are in coding and in development and all this kind of stuff, right? And coding traditionally hasn't been part of IT, right? So IT traditionally has been, the hardware stuff. I deploy systems. I install operating systems, I deploy computers, I deploy servers, I manage the network rack, I deal with the server room, all this stuff. And of course, with the advent of cloud computing, we have seen a decline in IT, basically, right, in the hardware portion. Virtualization. So in the past, you had to have one server operating system was installed on one piece of hardware. That's just how it was. You couldn't install more than that. There were some ways to do it, but they all sucked, right? Now we have virtualization where we can, in a stable and effective manner, we can install multiple virtual machines, multiple operating systems that run completely separate from each other, completely independent of each other on the same piece of physical hardware. So we're really, that along with cloud computing, we're really reducing the amount of infrastructure, the amount of equipment that is in every business, every nonprofit, government organization, whatever it is, right? We can reduce it. Now, based on that, right, less systems just means less need for IT people, right? Not that IT people are gone or not needed at all. We just need fewer of them, right? So a growing field, a field that was just skyrocketing and growing, basically has plateaued, definitely plateaued. I would say it's shrinking a little bit. It's thinning down, right? We're trimming off what's not needed. I do still think there's a need for IT professionals. There's still going to be the need for people to do, data recovery and, operating systems that fail and don't boot up anymore and just things like that, right? There's always going to be need for some networking people. There's always going to be networking issues. I would say things are getting a lot more better and a lot more stable than they have been. So, whatever. It is what you think it is, right? If it is a field that is not the same what it was a decade ago. Definitely, it is definitely a changing field. I think there's going to be a lot more emphasis from an IT perspective. There's going to be a lot more emphasis on things like security, network security, data loss prevention, all that kind of stuff. I do think that's a growing field, and I think that's a way for people in IT to transition out a little bit. You're not maintaining the server rack anymore, but you're dealing with confidential information, making sure that doesn't get out, abiding to the regulatory environment, all that stuff, right? So anyways, I do think there is still a future for IT people. But the big thing right now is coding, right? Learning to code. Everything is software as a service. Everything is application based, right? Apps, all this kind of stuff. That's where the money's at, everybody's saying, right? And I'm not arguing that. There's a lot of jobs. That's the biggest growing field in the technology industry as a whole. That is what is growing. That being said, not everybody is a coder. Not everybody wants to code. What I would argue is that everybody should have some kind of competency with coding. This is kind of like the same thing where Coders, I would say coders need to have a basic understanding of how their computer operating system works, right? If you're not able to use your Windows operating system, if you're like, oh, I don't know how to, you know, I don't know how to uninstall this piece of software, or something as basic as that, just because you know how to code doesn't mean you shouldn't know how to do those other basic things. And that's the same for the IT field, right? The others, it works the other way as well. If you are an IT professional, if you work with systems administration, you work with server OSs, that kind of stuff, right? You should have a basic level of coding competency as well, because it relates to your particular job, right? For example, you're going to develop some script. So when a user logs on, some script runs because you got something special that you need to happen, and this is how you're going to make it happen. If you can't code whatsoever, you can't make that script. How do you make a bat file if you don't know how to do it, right? And this is one of these things where, in my opinion, like traditionally, people, especially in the IT field, have been very specialized, right? Narrow focus, I always talk about this, narrow focus, specialized, right? I did Exchange, that was it. I managed PBX phone systems, that was it. I didn't do anything else. I managed Active Directory, nothing else, right? And you had these very special, you had these specialties. These people did these very specialized tasks, these very specific things. And that's just not the way it is anymore, right? For lack of a better term, IT professionals need to be jacks of all trade. They really need to be jacks of all trade now. And what that does is it means that you can't just be somebody that manages phone systems. You can't just be somebody that does nothing but Active Directory. You can't be somebody that does nothing but Exchange. And this is one of these things where you need to think about this, and you need to think about right? You have to have a well-rounded understanding of a lot of things, right? So again, my primary role is network security here at Orange, here for my business, right? I've got staff, they do, systems administration, all the basic stuff, wireless, all that stuff. My primary role is to focus on security. So I deal with log auditing, I deal with data loss prevention, I deal with, whatever it is. I deal with all of that stuff, right? Now I'm dealing with vulnerability assessments. Again, I talked about this in a video a little bit before. Again, I still have the textbook in front of me. Certified Penetration Testing Engineer from Mile 2. Great program, awesome program. I think that was a great course if you want to learn a little bit about it. The last video that I did, I'm not sure what order it's going to be when it gets uploaded, but last video I did was a review about this course. I took this course, I got the certification, I did the exam, and I think it's a great course. Absolutely, thumbs up, do it. Anyway, so that being said, vulnerability assessments are now in my realm as well. But that is my particular role, right? But just because that is my role does not mean I don't know how to do other things, right? For example, if you go to our website, orangetechnology, all one word, .ca, right? So orange technology with a Y, singular, .ca, all one word. You will see on the right-hand side, there's actually some JavaScript coding there. I don't know how to code JavaScript. I do not know anything about JavaScript coding. I can do some C++. I took that in school. I can do HTML. I do know how to do HTML quite well. I do know, some programming languages. I don't enjoy coding. I don't actually enjoy doing it. I do enjoy doing HTML. I will say that. I don't enjoy doing anything else. I don't enjoy C++, little Visual Basic. I don't enjoy any of that stuff. It's just me. I'm not that kind of person. I don't like that. That being said, if you look on our homepage, you'll see a counter that goes up. It's a dollar figure, and it's based on we specialize in low power solutions. That is kind of our thing. So what I did a few years ago was I started looking at how much power am I actually saving people, and how much is that translating into dollars. So I've got your kilowatt hours, and I've done all the calculations. It's a lot of calculating involved in that, a lot of math. And I have figured out how much money I'm saving people. I've narrowed it down to I'm saving these people this much money every second, right? So I had to figure out, I want to have a counter on my website that counts up in dollars every second how much people are saving. So literally you go there this year and you see a figure, and if you go there next year, the figure will have grown. That's what I want to see. I want a running inventory basically of how this works, and or how much is being saved. And the nice thing about that is I had to learn some JavaScript to do it, right? How do you do that? So I started looking around. I started getting some information and getting some little bit of learning on JavaScript, and I started doing that on my own. And finally, I got to a point where, okay, this is how I can do this. This is how I can set an accumulating figure that updates on its own every second by this much. Then, about a year later, I had to figure out, so I mean, of course, that was a snapshot at that time. I've deployed these many systems. This is how much power I've saved. This is how much that is accruing or accumulating. Then a year later, I'm like, okay, now this past year, I've deployed this many more systems. So now I want to find out how much I'm saving those people, and I want to add that to the counter that's already counting up from the year before. So then again, I had to go back and I had to learn a little bit more JavaScript, right? How do I do this adding up, right? And I'd add some variables and all that kind of stuff. You can look at my source code on that website and you can see it. I mean, it's just a basic JavaScript script. I mean, go and look at it. If it works for you, hey, use it. I have no problem if you take that code and use it. Again, it's not technically it's copyrighted, but you can accept this as if you want to use that to count something up for yourself on your website, by all means, go ahead and do that. I have no problem with that, right? But again, this is one of these things. I wanted to add that, and I want to be able to show people that. I wanted to show people because it's part of IT. It's part of my company's IT strategy, right? Because we focus on low power. Part of how I can sell systems and upgrade older systems is you will save this much money in electricity costs, right? And that's a real cost. People don't think about it in the IT field, but IT equipment eats power, right? Especially servers, especially servers. There's other things too, but especially servers eat a lot of power, right? So I can go and I can do an assessment and I can say, look, this system is this old, this is what you're looking at. We do suggest replacing it. By the way, if you replace it, we're also going to put in a low power solution. This is how much money you're going to save in electricity. And what I found is actually a lot of clients, when I do low power desktop solutions, they're actually paying back their desktop within 18 to 24 months just from power savings. So forgetting about, efficiencies, speed improvements, productivity improvement from the employees, whatever, all that stuff aside, just the power savings, they're paying those computers back, the new ones, within an 18 to 24 months time frame for the majority of my clients. And there's some clients I've seen that are getting 12 months payback. I mean, 12 months payback on a capital asset like that, that's actually quite significant, right? And then you add in the productivity and stuff, the payback comes down quite a bit. So, but again, right, this is one of these things, it benefits my core business as IT, but I need to know a little bit of coding in order to get the message out there. I need that counter on my website counting up so people can go there and look and see and go, hey, okay, and start asking questions, or I can show people this is how much money I've saved everybody so far, right? And that's just one of those things. It's not, again, I'm not a JavaScripter. I don't know JavaScript very well. I know enough to be able to have done the counter there. I'm not going to go script in JavaScript probably ever in my life. I'm not going to build software in it or anything like that. But again, it's one of those things where I needed to be able to do that in order to do the IT portion, right? So that's one of those things where you have to be willing to learn a little bit of everything if needed, right? We have clients in the construction industry. I don't know too much about construction. I know a little bit, right? I can do a little bit of building, but I'm not a construction person either, right? I don't do very well at mudding and taping, any of that kind of stuff, right? So based on that, when I look at construction software, and my clients tell me something's not working right in this construction software, I mean, you know, you're selling a 2x4 and you're selling it in this many bundles, and you know something's not adding up correctly when the client who has, you know, purchased these many beforehand is doing this or whatever it is, right? You understand. If I don't know anything about the construction field, right? So how do you troubleshoot that? Again, you got to know a little bit. You're gonna have to learn a little bit about the construction field. I've had to learn a little bit about how sheet metal is done, how tin is quoted out and manufactured and then, you know, invoiced out. I had to learn about progress billing, something in the construction industry, especially something called progress billing. So basically, if you win a contract, let's say from the government to build a building, and the building's going to cost, you know, $20 million or whatever, you don't get the $20 million up front, right? The government doesn't give you the money all up front and then you promise to build the building, because if you just take that money and run, it's very difficult to try and get it back, right? And it costs money, right? Court costs money. So, and if the money's gone, well, if you take that money and bail and go to the Bahamas, it's going to be very difficult to get that back, right? So they do something called progress billing. They award you the contract, right? And usually you get like an initial payment. So I don't know, I'm just using some hypothetical stuff. Let's say it's a $20 million contract. They give you $1 million, right? You go with that $1 million, you start buying the initial supplies. You get your staff to start constructing the building, and, you know, let's say, you know, phase one or stage one is getting the foundation up, okay? So the foundation's up, it's done. The government comes, they inspect it, they go, okay, yep, foundation's done. We will give you, you know, whatever percentage of the overall project the foundation is worth. So let's just say, for argument's sake, it's $5 million. They give you $5 million. In your accounting, that's something called progress billing. So you put into your accounting the project's worth $20 million. I've gotten 5 of it because we are this far. So you can then allocate hours for employees, allocate your costs and expenses, and then take in the revenue for that portion. And you can find out if you're ahead or behind on the overall project based on, you know, total estimated hours, how many hours did it take you to get to this part, all this stuff, right? But that's something called progress billing. I'd never seen progress billing before. I don't know what progress billing is. That's something that's really unique to the construction industry. I do know there's some other industries that use it, but construction really uses it, right? So based on that, I had to learn about progress billing, right? Again, I'm not in the construction field. I don't think I'll ever be in the construction field, but I know a little bit about it. You have to be able to be willing to learn about these things and learn kind of how this works. And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, that's how it is. And you know, in the coding world, again, you don't have to be a professional coder. You don't have to get in coding. That's not what you want to do. You can do other things, but you do need to know a little bit about coding. You have to. Coding at this point is something that touches pretty much everything in the technology field. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Even if you're doing IT, you're doing just the straight IT stuff, coding is still a part of that. It's still something you have to deal with, right? So, and that's one of those things that I see a lot of people are just like, I don't want to learn how to code. I don't want to do any coding whatsoever. I won't do it. And it's like, but that's not really how it works. Right? I mean, coding is integral to everything now, right? That's just how it is. It would be like an auto mechanic saying, I don't want to deal with any computerized systems in cars. Computerized systems in cars are crap. They're junk. You know, the old way is the way to go. Well, that's great, but the old way is gone, right? The carbureted manual engine is completely gone. Cars are run by computers. That's it. And if you don't like that, then you can't be in the field. You have to be willing to be able to use, you know, those master diagnostic computers and plug into the OBD2 port in a car and diagnose what's going on. You have to be willing to do that. If you're not, it's just not the industry for you anymore. It's not the sector. It's not what you should be involved in anymore. And technology, IT is kind of the same thing. If you're not willing to code whatsoever, even, you know, a little bit of understanding about it, my opinion is it's not the right field anymore for you. You need to know a little bit about it, right? Again, I'm not saying you got to be a pro. I'm not saying you can't use resources. I'm not saying you have to know this by the back of your hand. I'm just saying you have to be willing to do it and deal with it, right? So that is, yeah, that is it for my opinion on being willing to code and where that's going. So yeah, I will see you guys at the next video.